Hey everyone, a really warm welcome back to the channel and a warm welcome not to the caravan or the van. No, we're in my office. That's because I have just finished editing the video that we're about to see. And this has turned out to be part one because many things went wrong in putting plumbing into the Multivan build. So, you know, everything we're doing in this Multivan is a little bit experimental because we can't just buy off the shelf the thing that we want. And indeed, today is a bit of an experiment and some stuff has gone wrong. So that's a warning. Do stick around to the end and you'll see what went wrong, and then next time we'll talk about what we did about it. Also, a little warning, if you're sensitive to flashing lights and so on, the workshop that we use has the most brilliant LED lighting, which is bright and wonderful and is great to work under, but try as I might, I can't get shutter speed on the cameras that I'm using, that are quite simple cameras, adjusted properly to get rid of all the flicker from the lights. So I apologise profusely. If you are sensitive to that, please watch out at around 15 minutes when there's some workshop scenes. All right, let's get into the video. Okay, so that is the hugely complex bit of the build done. Complex because we're trying to work with flat material on a very curvy space. So you can see here that the box narrows down and is shaped at the bottom, and that perfectly mirrors, hopefully, the line that it follows on the curve of the door panel on the inside of the door card. What I didn't record was installing these threshold inserts. These are sort of mini lashing points on the inside, and what we will need those for will become very obvious very soon. And these lashing points go through the wood, actually through the timber, so although they're not very big and the timber's not particularly strong, we are sandwiching the lashing point through the timber so it can hold quite a lot of weight. And then of course we've got this chrome rail that we put in, and that's nice and firm, and that holds the cabinet itself really sturdily, so it acts as a front wall, whereas it would have been really difficult to get a wall or a door in here because of that curve and because it's following the door card of the van door itself. And this beautiful shaping uses up every single bit of available space. So we've stepped it back where it goes around the seat, I should say, in the van. So it's wider at the base, and then we can accommodate water barrels and more storage down there and not waste a single bit of space. But then up at the top, of course, where the actual sink will go, it needs to come in so that it allows enough space for the armrest and doesn't interfere with anybody sitting in the seat. And then of course we have this beautiful, beautiful shape. I just need a little bit of wood filler across all these brad holes here, and then I can get on with dyeing and putting some finish on it to help it keep its colour and stay looking good. And then of course the sink hole up here, but let me get some colour on this first. Okay, so here's the lashing points on the inside that I showed you earlier, and now you can see what they're used for. The theory here is why take up twice as much space as you actually need using rigid water containers. So it's a complete experiment, but we're going to try using these water bags and hope that over time then obviously as the fresh empties out into the waste, then the waste fills up, and then the bags move against each other. It's the same water, it starts off clean and ends up dirty, so hopefully it is taking up the same overall space. That's the experiment. Anyway, we'll see if it works. Over time it could be a complete disaster, but you know, it's worth trying in this tiny space. And then hopefully by suspending the bags, we won't get any splashing, and they'll all be held perfectly rigidly. So here's a close-up of the clips that I'm using to make the water bags easy to fill and empty. So each water bag hangs from its fairly strong handle on one of these each. Hang on, it's a bit difficult to do with the camera in one hand. Anyway, it's a massive experiment, but realistically the usual sort of solid-sided containers don't fit in here anyway, so really we've got nothing to lose. And there we go, all in place. And there we are with a camping table, so a really small collapsible aluminium one in place, and the first aid kit and the warning triangle to keep all that lot really easily accessible with the door open anyway. And I've made this padded curtain instead of a cupboard door because, as I said, the front face follows the van side door, so it's not at all flat. And that's what I needed the Velcro on the inside of the wood for, although I missed filming the sewing bit of this stage, so what I've just found out is actually the Velcro is a bit too robust, too difficult to operate, so I put I guess a strip with some magnets in up on top of that Velcro inside to make this curtain much easier to open and close. So there we go, warning triangle secured away and front fabric panel in place. An easy open close of that panel because of the magnets, but it doesn't shift, which is good. And now for the plumbing. The freshwater bit is easy, so it's just running a bit of tube between the base and the top through a hole in the screw cap of the water bag and then into the water bag itself. And I've tested this tap just freestanding before we started the build, and it looked like it was going to be perfect, because what I didn't want was an electrical solution, so this is a fully manual pump that just works on pressure. The waste though is a lot more tricky, and that's what we're going to try and do now. And I really hope the collapse team are not watching us destroy one of their waste pipes. That would be embarrassing, wouldn't it? But what I want to do is attach this rubberized end of the collapse pipe onto the screw-in bit of the sink strap, because the trap itself is a huge domestic trap. It doesn't lend itself to being compact in this little space. So the idea with the rubberized collapse bit on the end is that then either we can use a collapse tube to form a sort of P-shaped trap which feeds into the waste bag, and then that will act as a trap, so effectively not letting any smells that might accumulate from dirty water in the bag back up through the sink as we're going along. But also that if we're parked somewhere for a few days and it's hot, so we've got the door open and in another video I'll be making some mosquito screens, so that will be viable. So we could just sort of hang the tube out from the sink, out through the door, and then have a much bigger container under the van itself, which will make emptying a lot easier. So that's the plan anyway, but we've got to get this collapsed bit of tube attached to the domestic piping. Right, now the point of this series is to show you the stuff that doesn't go right as well as the stuff that does go right. You know, this is experiments in the making, so it's showing everything that's we've tried and things that work and things that don't work. And fail number one is solvent weld does not attach things to collapse waste pipes. I assume there must be ABS, and although this solvent weld is supposed to be okay, it's clearly not. So that's not working at all. And so right now I have to pick all the little semi-melted and semi-set bits of solvent weld out of the bottom of this collapse connector with some tweezers. So I'll be back in a minute. Alright, so it's a few days later. I've left time for everything to go off and set and all the rest of it, and it's attempt number 2. And this time I'm going to use Araldite Fusion. Now, why on earth am I using Fusion? Because this stuff is incredibly expensive and only comes in small containers. Well, I need to get the glue right the way deep down into the crevices of the collapsed pipe where the sort of expandable bit used to fit, and where I want to put my domestic bit of the white screw cap thing that came with the waste system itself. And there's absolutely no time for messing about with spatulas and so on with normal Araldite, and I can't risk any air gaps down there, because if we get dirty water accumulating, then that's going to be absolutely stinky and disgusting and so on. So this sort of fusion stuff with the syringe that you just push it straight down into the hole and put your fitting in should be perfect. Anyway, I need to rough up the surfaces first to give us a key for things to stick to, and it's got to be done properly because I've got one shot at this. Right, and in the spirit of preparing as much as possible so that hopefully this doesn't fail, here's some good old IPA, isopropyl alcohol, to make sure there's no grease on here and I've got rid of as much residue and sanding mess and so on as possible. Alright, wish me luck. I am going in with this Araldite. Alright, and it's too late now, so hopefully this will take. What is slightly annoying is that this is nowhere near enough to create the good seal that we need. So we need a lot more of a volume of glue to make a thorough bond between these two pieces, because we don't want any gaps, as I said, that dirty water can get stuck down. So I'll leave this bit overnight and then I'll come back tomorrow and we'll fill the gap properly, and we can just use normal Araldite for that. Alright, so the Araldite Fusion went off well overnight, so it's firmly stuck in, but we still have big gaps here. So what I need to do is slowly work round, filling in this gap between the white domestic pipe that came with the waste strap itself, and then the lip, if you like, from the collapsed pipes. And I need to make an absolutely perfect join. I need to have a sort of diagonal slope between the white pipe and the grey of the collapsed pipe, so that we don't get anything getting stuck down there. So that's what I'm going to do, just slowly feed the glue in, and then I'll show you how it worked when I get there. Alright, here we go. I will put a couple of stills in
to show you what this looks like. I'm actually quite impressed with how smoothly that went in. I kept tapping it to try and make sure there weren't any air bubbles getting stuck, and that all those air bubbles were coming up to the surface before the glue set, and it actually looks really good. Everything's set now, so I'll get the waste into the van and get it all connected up, and then we can do some final checks. And really annoyingly, the tap that was working fine when I tested it, it's just leaking everywhere. This is a complete mess. So it was leaking a bit earlier. I sent Mike away to go and have a look at what's going on with the O-rings, and it is just a horrendous tap. This is not very well made at all, so this is not going to work for us.